you guys are probably familiar with Coffeevilla. He's famous for busting up scams, especially crypto scams. But after Donald Trump himself kind of became a crypto scammer, he has decided that he is going to dive into political commentary. Coffeevilla on his alt, the voidzilla, released a video called "So the Epstein List Does Exist." Now he's been covering the whole Epstein situation for quite a while. Let's check this out. This is called "So the Epstein List Does Exist" by voidzilla. Well, Coffeevilla, voidzilla is just the alt.
Apparently there is an Epstein list and Trump is going to give it to us.
You should focus on Clinton. You should focus on the president of Harvard, the former president of Harvard. You should focus on some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein.
Now
That's not the same as the Epstein list, right? Because there are different lists that Epstein had. So there are the flight logs that has been released, I believe. I want to say it's been released. Credit where credit is due there. There is the client list. That is what most people really wanted, where it's a list of the people who had shady and sordid dealings with Jeffrey Epstein, specifically on the island. And so I don't know that this is the same list that Donald Trump is referring to. This is a list of people who have lived with Epstein. That's not the same thing.
Guys, I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah,
now this is
right?
yet another change of the story. First we heard that the Epstein list was covered up by the Dems. Then we heard there is no list. Then we heard the list was made up by Democrats. Now we're hearing that there is a list.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it.
We need to release the Epstein list.
It's sitting on my desk right now.
The DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list.
No incriminating client list.
Made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. Focus on Clinton.
By the way, I think it's extremely fair to say that they're lying about there being no list, because if anyone would have known whether or not there was a client list, it would have been the federal government. They have access to all of the evidence, right? And so I think that one argument that some might say is, oh, well, maybe it's not a client list, it's some other type of list, and they just thought it was a client list, and when they looked at the list, it turned out that it wasn't actually a client list. It was a list of, I don't know, pizza recipes, or like a list of local chefs, or I don't know, jet fuel producers that he could procure oil from for his jets. I don't know. But to me, like, I just don't see that, because if you have the evidence, you have to imagine that they would have looked through it. So they know what evidence there is. They know what lists there are about Jeffrey Epstein. And there is no way, there's absolutely no way that they would have looked at the client list, known that it either was or wasn't a client list, and then, like, I don't know, get that wrong, for example. Like, there's no way they would look at whatever lists exist and then just have no idea what it was or misremember what type of list it was. I just can't believe that, to be honest.
The president of Harvard. I'll give you a list.
This all comes after shocking revelations about new implications of our most powerful leaders, both former and current presidents. But now, given the fact this story won't go away, Trump is zeroing in on his political enemies and saying they're the ones everyone should be focusing on.
They should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about, because, Jeffrey Epstein should be.
You know what I find really interesting about this whole Epstein list is that how come literally everyone on the list, at least as far as we know, of the rumors of who is and isn't on the list, how come everyone that we know is allegedly on the list, they're all Democrats, right? For when Donald Trump would be on this list, or whenever he would have been placed on this list, he would have been a Democrat, because he's been a lifelong Democrat until he decided to run for president in 2016. I just find that very interesting, right? No one's out there saying that John McCain was on the Epstein list, right? Right? No one's saying that, like, Greg Abbott was on the Epstein list, right? Byron Donalds, I don't know, George W. Bush. Like, how come it's only Democrats? That part is kind of strange to me, I will say.
Spoken about, and they should speak about them, because they don't talk about them They talk about me. I have nothing to do with the guy.
Now, the reason we haven't been speaking about these people is because, of course, the DOJ covered everything up, not giving any names. And, of course, people were extremely suspicious of this sudden change. But we want to talk about everyone. Let's be clear. No matter who they are, left or right, we want them all to go down. If they were on the island, if they are in the files, we want it all to come out. That's been everyone's stance from the beginning. And it seems like Trump is finally buckling on the idea that he can just ignore the problem, that he can just pretend it doesn't exist. And now it looks like he's shifting to deflecting to some of the other people who are also seemingly implicated.
Hedge fund guys, they're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
Now, if true, that's a shocking amount of times. We don't...
I mean, from what I've heard, it's true. I think this is this not included in the flight logs that got released?
Know if Trump has special briefings that we don't have access to right now. Previously, Clinton denied going to the island. There are some people who have said, oh, maybe he went once or twice, but 28 times. I've never heard that number before. If true, I hope that comes out. I hope we get verification of that.
Well, I mean, let's look it up and see. In a 2019 statement posted on social media, this is from factcheck.org, by the way, says the 2019 statement posted on social media, a spokesperson for Clinton acknowledged that he has traveled to Epstein's planes during several international trips in 2002 and 2003, and when he was no longer president. However, the statement said that Clinton never went to the Caribbean island that was Epstein's primary residence. Okay, so he's saying that he has never been to the Epstein Island. Yeah, recent interviews Trump invoked Clinton's connection to Epstein as Trump responded to questions from reporters about his own past friendship with the disgraced financier. Trump maybe incorrectly referred to the number of times that Clinton traveled on Epstein's planes. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense, because I was about to say, like, and this is why I decided to look it up. 28 is a very specific number to just make up, right? I mean, sometimes people do just make up numbers on the spot, but I was like, 28 sounds like a citation rather than a hallucination. So it seems like Trump was referring to something actually real. It says in August 2019, Epstein's claim was that Clinton was on his plane 27 times, not that he had been to the island often. Now, if that's the case, I wonder if Trump was actually trying to refer to that and just misspoke. That's certainly a possibility. I don't know how likely that is.
Of course, it wasn't just on the island where these bad things happened. And the other surprising twist in this, where the narrative is sort of changing, is that Trump is softening his stance on this letter that he supposedly wrote. Initially, he said, it doesn't exist. I never could have written it. Now he's saying, oh, it could exist, but if it does, someone else wrote it.
I don't know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier.
So seemingly they're laying the groundwork.
Oh, I think this is about the letter with the naked lady with Trump's name written on it or whatever. That whole thing was kind of weird. I've got no idea whether or not I should believe that. You know, it could have been something written like to both of them. Maybe it was written by someone else named Donald, because remember, it doesn't say Donald Trump, right? From what I know of the letter, it doesn't say Donald Trump on it. It just says Donald. Epstein had a lot of friends. He could have had a friend named Donald something else. I don't know. But you know, I think it's a little bit of a stretch to assume that A, the letter is by Donald Trump, and B, even if that letter was by Donald Trump, it proves that Trump was connected with Epstein or was engaged in sort of activities on Epstein's island. I think that if you want proof or indication that Donald Trump was connected to Epstein, you would probably do a little bit better to check out how he has been engaging with this whole situation and the shady ways in which he's been lying, he's been trying to cover up stuff, rather than kind of like grasping at these straws like, oh, somebody wrote Trump's name on a lady with a Sharpie. Like, bro. And said, oh, what wonderful secrets you have. Like, come on, man. Everyone knew like 20 years ago that Epstein had secrets. So that part is nothing new.
work for this birthday book to finally be released to the public, as we've all wanted. Trump is saying, look, maybe it does have my name on it, but I didn't personally write the note. Now, whether you believe that is totally up to you, but this is such a shocking change in stance from how they've been treating the Epstein files. Previously, we were literally told, look, there's nothing we can charge third parties with. There's no evidence we have on anyone. Now, the Trump administration is meeting privately with Ghislaine Maxwell. Supposedly, there's 100 new people she has mentioned, and Trump is mentioning evidence that he says they have, or some knowledge he says he has, of Clinton being on Jeffrey Epstein's island 28 times, which, if true, is like so incredibly damning, and these people should be locked up. The problem is, of course, it cuts both ways. If you're going to implicate one person, you have to go after everyone. Now, Trump was asked if he was ever briefed on his name being in the Epstein files. Of course, it was reported by the Wall Street Journal that he was told, and that's when he started acting very weird about the Epstein files, saying it was all a hoax. He once again denies it, though, saying he wasn't.
No, I was never briefed. No.
Now, we have really good reporting on the fact that this seems like a blatant lie. The White House barely even denied it, and the DOJ didn't deny it. So this seems to be just a blatant cover-up, as Trump appears to be deflecting onto other people, which, again, we should focus on those people as well, but we can do both at the same time. Right. We should be talking.
I mean, the whole thing is that we just want everyone's names to be out there, so that we can be like, okay, we know who and who wasn't a part of the club. And hopefully, based on the details in the list, we also know what these people did on the island specifically. I mean, that'd be fantastic, because then we could bring people up on charges, based on the times in which things happened. We've got the statute of limitations and all of that jazz. But at the very least, these people can be exposed and disgraced publicly for the heinous acts that they have performed.
About all of these people. Now, in light of recent talks about Ghislaine Maxwell getting pardoned, stuff like that, Trump has now said it's not the time to talk about pardons yet, although once again, he doesn't rule it out. And then he says that if you're going to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell, if you're going to talk about Epstein, talk about Clinton, don't talk about Trump.
A lot of people are asking me about pardons. Obviously, this is no time to be talking about pardons. But a lot of people have asked about pardon. This is just not a time to be talking about pardons. Todd will come back with whatever he's got. You're making a very big thing over something that's not a big thing. You should be talking about, if you're going to talk about that, talk about Clinton.
What? Hold on. How is the Epstein list not a big thing? This is like a massive interconnected web of famous people, rich people, and politicians all together doing what, for everything I've seen seems to indicate that this is the case. Connecting together to abuse children, and also Jeffrey Epstein using that information to blackmail a lot of famous, intelligent, and important people. I don't know how that is a small deal. In fact, I'm quite certain that it's not a small deal, especially because many people involved with that are probably still in American politics today. Now, some people are probably defending, not probably, I've heard them say this. A lot of people are defending Donald Trump refusing to release information in the Epstein file, saying, oh, well, it would crumble the democracy. Well, because a whole bunch of American politicians and leaders would have to get arrested and stuff. And it's just like, well, if you were doing that stuff that's included on the list, then you should be gone, right? And I don't care how much instability that causes, because I think it's worth it. You have to get these people out of office. And I think that actually includes Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump has to be impeached and removed if it turns out that he's on this list. I think that is just such a blatantly, obviously disqualifying thing that no one who has been involved with Epstein's dealings in that way should be allowed to be in public, not allowed to be in public office. I'll say this: the American people should not allow them to be in public office, because they should not be voting for them. I just want to couch my language. I know, especially how sometimes people will take words that's supposed to be political and they'll take them to mean violent things or whatever. No, I'm not talking about going after these people violently. I'm not even a big fan of the whichever things. Like there are more peaceful ways that you can procure the death penalty. But I'm just saying that, this is such a big thing that I don't really care how much instability releasing the list causes. You've got to release the list so that these dirty deeds can come to light.
Talk about the former president of Harvard. Talk about all of his friends. Talk about the hedge fund guys that were with him all the time. Don't talk about Trump.
Well, how about we talk about all of you guys? Because while Trump tries to separate himself and say, oh, you can't talk about me, you got to talk about all these other guys, it just seems like we should be talking about everyone who appears in the Epstein files. And now, as the White House softens its approach on the complete denial and shutting up of the Epstein files, now the goal is just to distance the president from any liability, which is why Ghislaine Maxwell's private meeting with him is so concerning. Today, the president was also asked about whether he was part of the decision for the House Republicans not to release the Epstein files. He says this is just conspiracy theories.
Did you ask House Republican leaders to not vote on the resolution about releasing the files?
I was never involved in that. I'm focused on making deals. I'm not focused on conspiracy theories that you are.
Once again, this is kind of a funny idea, being that this administration and the surrogates are part of the people who pushed this whole thing from the very beginning. So to call it a conspiracy theory now, to be making fun of people who are asking basic questions about that, is just bizarre and strange again. But I do think it's worth noting this radical shift in the approach of talking about the Epstein files. Remember, it was that it's a cover-up, then it was the list doesn't exist. Now they're saying the list does exist and they will produce it. So what names actually they're gonna produce? I think it's anyone's guess. I hope they produce all of them. I'm doubtful. I think there will be some omissions, but it's a credit to all the people who won't stop talking about this that at least there is a change in the approach, and it looks like they're gonna have to release some of the files.
I mean, my thing is, I am pretty sure that, you know, even if Donald Trump does end up releasing more files, the Trump administration ends up releasing more files, it's just going to be like a drip, drip, drip. Like, it's not going to be what it is that we want to see. Like, there's no way he's releasing the client list. Let's just keep it 100. There's no way that he would release the client list. So I think that Donald Trump will sort of use a partial release of information to distract Americans from the fact that we still don't have all the information that we need. And I think that it's just really important that observers of American politics refuse to let this go and be like, no. I understand you're trying to distract me with this one thing, but we got to keep our eye on the ball here. Give us the full Epstein list. Give us the list of all of his clients. Because until then, I think there should be no rest from the people who actually care about this situation. Donald Trump should not be left off the hook for this at all.